Do you want to learn all about the planes and the Great Wheel? Do you want to buy an adventure set in the 9 hells that also supports the Extra Life charity? Do you want to learn more about the Astral Plane, including player and DM options? Well, if you answered yes to any of these questions, we've got books that will satisfy those needs and much more in today's episode of D&D New Releases. So let's get started. Hi, it's Splinterverse. Welcome to another episode of D&D New Releases, where we offer first impressions of new third-party products for Dungeons & Dragons. We cover a selection of titles from Dungeon Masters Guild and DriveThruRPG each week. The titles are presented in alphabetical order, and all of them are linked in the video description. Purchasing the books using those links helps the channel, but you can also support us by purchasing one of our best-selling books. Our newest release, Dragonlance Companion, offers 180 pages for players and DMs to bring the magical world of Krynn to life. And like many of our books, it's available in hardcover and digital format. Our Swarms of the Multiverse offers over 70 brand new creatures, including their associated swarms, instructions on how to make your own balanced swarms, and lots of bonus materials such as 4 new demiplanes. Our Feywild Companion offers 150 pages of Feywild fun for players and DMs alike. Also, our book, Fizban's Vault of Draconic Secrets, contains over 50 pages of dragon-themed player options, including a subclass for each class and much more. We've got lineages suitable for any setting, as well as optional lineage rules in our Van Richten's Librum of Lineages. With our Potions Unlocked book, we have over 100 pages of material to take potions to the next level in your game. Please support the channel by purchasing our books using the links in the video description. First up, we have Adventure College Student Handbook by Fiona Shade's Stories. And it's a magic punk setting with species and backgrounds for 5th edition. It's $7.95 for 56 pages. And it says, welcome to a magic punk world bursting with opportunities for drama, comedy, and mystery. Enroll at Adventure College and discover magic punk technologies, mysterious species, strange professors, and lore galore. Feast your mind on 5 species, 7 backgrounds, 30 unique items, social gameplay features, and take it or leave it, a standalone setting. So quite a lot of stuff packed into these 56 pages, and there's this fun little picture here of the location, which is this adventure college, and I could see where that could be really fun to incorporate into your adventures. It might be a really good home base as a setting, but as the author said, you don't have to use it. It's optional. There's a full map of 𝙤𝙤𝙧𝙬𝙀, the college town, and then, of course, a full-page map of the Adventure College itself. There's a whole new pantheon with 22 deities, background section, all kinds of goodness. Let's look inside. Here you can see the custom species. So they have the Arbor Star, Hell, Nagander, Puka, Rebi, and then you got backgrounds. Then there's Phantazon Retail Therapy, including a barista kit, special arrows, and bolts. And then you got Reputations, which would be a new mechanic, 𝙤𝙤𝙧𝙬𝙀, which is the town around the college, the faculty, and then the Pantheon. So quite a good mixture of things for $7.95. I think that's a really good price for something this size. So here's your introduction. At the foot of the mountain, it says is where this college is. You can see it with some really fun illustrations in here, kind of like watercolor style. Talks about phase species and politics, the Forest of Arden, and you've got your custom species. Look at this with this bark and these mushrooms. Those look really cool. This is the Arbor Star. It says, while other faiths sometimes possess or travel through trees, the Arbor Stars are truly of the woods. Over a millennium ago, a verdant meteorite impacted an old-growth grove in Arden. Lush, otherworldly fragments became embedded within the heartwood. Just a century ago, the grove's saplings began to uproot themselves, develop humanoid traits, and ask questions about themselves and their world. So these plants basically came to life after this meteor crashed there, and that's why it's called Arbor Star. So that makes sense. Good name for that, I think. It says Arbustar saplings cease to grow skyward once they are about 7 to 8 feet tall. Instead, their lower trunk splits into legs. Long upper limbs extend into arms, and their tree tops form facial features. So that's cool. It starts as like a normal plant, and then at a certain point, it becomes a humanoid-like being. And there's a section on names, which I always appreciate when they do that with races. And then you get into the traits, including ability score increases, speed, all that good stuff. But beyond the dark vision, it says all natural. You're a tree, or you're tree-ish. Who can really say? Regardless, you gain the following benefits. You drink by staying in contact with water for a prolonged period, such as by submerging your feet in a stream or dipping your leafy forearms into a basin. You don't need to eat, but you need to photosynthesize by spending at least 2 hours per day in bright light, or else you gain 1 level of exhaustion. You do not need to breathe normally. Your roots only need exposure to small amounts of fresh air. You start to suffocate if smothered for an hour. So that's some advantages, right? You don't have to spend all that time eating and all that stuff, and you get to make contact with the water and photosynthesize. So that could be fun and different to role play, especially. It says return to roots. You don't need sleep in the normal sense, and magic can't put you to sleep, so that's helpful. Ironwood hide, so long as you aren't wearing armor. Your base armor class is 13 plus your con mod. And says few know any sapient trees. You can spend an action to make a stealth or deception check to hide. If you are not wearing any equipment, you gain advantage on the check. On a success, you become nearly indistinguishable from an ordinary tree. So you have to be obviously in a place where a tree could grow. You can't be in the middle of a palace, on some tile or something. But you can basically pretend to be a tree and people won't know you're there. It says you've observed the natural and arcane growth of Arden for many years. Choose either Arcana or Nature to have proficiency in. And you have rooted stance. You can use your reaction to dig your roots in and ignore up to 10 feet of forced movement from being shoved, pushed, or pulled. That could be really handy too. And then there's a whole thing here. It's a transmutation cantrip called Beckon Plants. It's a spell, and you have to choose a square occupied by vegetation. And it says if the growth you target is on the ground, you can cause it to flourish, making the area difficult terrain. Otherwise, the growth already is difficult terrain. You can cause it to wither. So that's versatile. If the growth you target provides cover, you can increase or decrease that. And you can magically bend the growth to spell out a short phrase or form of simple shape. I like this. It's a very versatile spell. You can do different things. You can dial it up, dial it down, use it to make messages. So you don't often see that. And, sometimes when you're picking your spells, it's like, this only does one thing. I don't know if I'm going to need that one thing. So having 3 things is really cool. And that was just one race. There's this hell race here that you can read about. But, look at this gorgeous watercolor style artwork here for both of the races we've looked at. This one looks really, really fun. And, I can only imagine how much more fun stuff is in here. We didn't find any typos. The layout is good. The maps are good. The price is great. So what are you waiting for? Why don't you grab your Adventure College Student Handbook and enroll today? It's in the links in the video description. Give it a click. Next, we've got Arcanis 5th edition prestigious compendium. So Arcanis has been around for a while, pretty much around the beginning of 5th edition, right? So the world of Shattered Empires is continuing to be published, which is awesome. It's from Paradigm Concepts Inc. $14.99 for 64 pages. Authors Cody Bergman and Henry Lopez on this one. And it gives you the setting, which is a fertile ground for exploring new and wondrous paths for adventurers. And they've gone through the original D20 books, and they've pulled out a bunch of the fan favorite prestige classes and reimagined them and re-engineered them for the 5th edition system. So this is a setting that lived on in the D20 previous eras of D&D, previous editions, and has been brought back to 5th edition. And a lot of great books. I have a few, and I've looked at more than a few, and they're all just a lot of fun. But in this one, you're going to get new clerical aspects, new eldritch sorcerer archetypes, new fury paths, holy champion orders, ranger archetypes, rogue archetypes, shaman options, shaman patrons, and of course new spells. And that's awesome. I got to add this to my wish list because that's a lot of good stuff. And I just generally enjoy all the Arcana stuff that's been published. I think it's a really fun setting. So looking here at the preview, you can see the different aspects, like aspects of Anshar or Larisha, the Black Chanter. And, if you've been playing this for a while, you're probably going to recognize some of these names. But even if you don't, there's things for you that you could enjoy, like fighter archetypes like the Blades of Hurian or the Spellblade or the Zealot, and rogue archetypes like the Terramancer or the Infernal for Ranger. So something for everyone, not to mention spells. You can always use more of those. So it goes into some of those sub aspects, I guess you should call them, for clerics. And those are kind of like subclasses, I believe. So they talk about a few of those. So let's look at one of those. We've got the aspect of Belisarda. After the devastation wrought by humanity and its divine allies at the end of the Gods' War, the Elori civilization was destroyed and its survivors routed. Many sought refuge in the vast woods, a forest expanse that the prophetess Ardelia promised would act as their sanctuary. True to her word, humanity's armies stopped at the forest's edge. Those who entered were never heard from again, or their vine-crusted bodies were found afterward. So some fun lore that rolls off the tongue there, and that's always nice to have that when it accompanies something new. So it says only Elori can choose this archetype, and then gives you the tenets of their faith, and then some of the spells that they get access to, and proficiencies like medium armor. And it says, Path of the Woods. When you choose this aspect at first level, you learn the Druidcraft cantrip, which can be helpful. And then your Channel Divinity at second level, Voice of the Mother option. It says, as an action, you can present your holy symbol to charm plants and animals. All beasts and plants within 30 feet must make a wisdom saving throw or become charmed by you until the spell ends or until you and your companions do anything harmful to it. And you've got Land Stride, where you can move through non-magical difficult terrain, and you can pass through non-magical plants without being slowed by them. And you have advantage on saving throws against plants that are magically created or manipulated, like the Entangle spell. And then Potent Spellcasting at 8th level, you can add your Wisdom mod to the damage you deal with any cantrips. And starting at 17th level, you may cast Dominate Monster on any beast or plant. Once used, you have to wait until you complete a short or long rest, but still could be helpful to dominate some of the things you encounter. I love this artwork too, so well done. I mean, Arcanis always does a beautiful job with their artwork, and I think they definitely do some good editing, because I really don't find a lot of typos or things in there. And all this adds up to value when you decide to purchase these books, right? Why pick a book that's filled with typos when you can pick one maybe that's cheaper and has just as much good stuff and doesn't have all those typos? So I like to mention it. Anyway, this is Arcanis 5th edition prestigious compendium, and it is in the video description links, so I hope you give it a click. Next, we've got Chains of Asmodeus from Arcanum Worlds, and a very well-known author, James Olin, and also Adrian Tohivosky. And I'm sure I mispronounced that. I apologize. But this is a 286-page source book and an adventure for the 9 Hells. You've heard of that plane, right? It's one of the most famous ones. And James Olin is one of the writers behind Baldur's Gate 2, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Dragon Age Origins, and on and on and on, as well as Adrian Tchaikovsky, I think is how you pronounce it, who did Children of Time, The Tiger and the Wolf, The Doors of Eden. So very talented people behind this. And the best part, though, about this book is that all the proceeds go to Extra Life, which is a fundraising program of the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. So you're going to be helping these kids get crucial medical care, because all the proceeds, not just some, all the proceeds of the $29.99 price point are going to go to Extra Life. So how can you resist that? You're going to get 286 pages of a hellish good time, and you're going to be helping kids. So, that's a win all the way around in my book. But you're going to get 50 plus high challenge monsters, and finding high challenge monsters is a challenge. You get stat blocks for Asmodeus, Lord of the Nine, and all major archdevils, also a huge thing. 20 plus infernal magic items, new item corruption mechanic, and then you've got details on all the layers of the Nine Hells with beautifully illustrated maps created by John Stevenson, and to cap it all off, a fiendish adventure for levels 11 to 20. And remember, it is Planescape time. Planescape just came out from 5th edition, and people are going all over the planes. They're going to Sigil, then they're going to different planes, maybe even using Spelljammer, which is still around, right, to get to some of these things. It'd be harder to do with Spelljammer, but you could try. So having books that are taking place in these other planes is really going to expand what you can do with that Planescape box set if you got it, because you can't cram it all into one book. And so Wizards stuck mostly with Sigil, and they're going to continue visiting some of the planes and Sigil and Planescape in future edition material, but they can't do it all at once. So you're going to need some of these other places to visit. And so why not go with someone who knows what they're talking about, someone who's written Baldur's Gate 2, right? This is somebody who has lived and breathed this world. So let's look inside. And I love this foreword. I was reading it earlier, and it's so cool. It says, "In the depths of Nessus, I sit upon my throne, watching the great wheel turn. Every soul, every heartbeat, every fleeting thought is like a delicate note in the symphony of existence. But oh, there is one sensation, one exquisite pleasure that eclipses all others, the corruption of a pure soul. Can you imagine that moment when innocence fractures, when a soul's core becomes tainted with the intoxicating taste of sin? That delectable descent into the dark. Many view me as a creature of sheer malevolence, but they fail to understand. It's not about the pain, the torment, or the eternal damnation. It's about the seduction, the transformation. I invite you, brave adventurers, to try and resist my allure. But remember, every choice you make, I will be watching, waiting, because there's no pleasure greater, no triumph more profound than turning the most steadfast and noble of souls into my devoted, corrupted playthings." So that was Asmodeus, who is the focus of this book, right? He is the ruler of the Nine Hells, and there's all these archdevils, and it's a whole hierarchy that you got to get familiar with. But James and Adrian have already done that for you, and they've put it all together in this awesome package that's going to help kids. And you can see they're going into the story here, get all the characters, and then all these locations. I mean, the Nine Hells, there's 9 different places, right, that you got to think about. So all the different places like Kenia and Nessus and Maladomini and Malbolge, and I mean the Realm of Decay, the Domain of Ruined Cities. It's all creepy. But then you've got monsters, a bunch of those, non-player characters, infernal magic items, including that new mechanic to add corruption to them, and then a bunch of player handouts. So this is just packed. It's packed full of good stuff with great layout, easy to read. Look at this. Just a classic Wizards of the Coast, because this is Wizards of the Coast sponsored, right? This isn't just a third-party thing. This is Wizards of the Coast here doing this, and they've got a cool adventure flow chart with that glowing gold. And then here's all these layers we talked about: Avernus, Dis, Mineris, all those. I mean, you could even, Descent into Avernus. You could follow up that with this, because this is an adventure for 11 to 20, right? So you could keep going, dealing with all this demonic stuff, and find your way to the Nine Hells. So I love it. I love it. Let's read a little bit more here. It says, sins must be at the core of any story that takes place in the nine hells. These hells are based on Dante's Inferno, the famed 14th century poem, which depicted hell as 9 concentric circles of torment. Each circle of hell tormented a different class of sinner, from the unbelievers of the first circle down to the great betrayers of the ninth circle. The poem focused on describing the acknowledgement and rejection of sin. In this story, good people have committed grievous sins that will have consequences. Some of these people might be player characters. So it says, what are the sins? Each layer of the nine hells embodies a particular sin as described in the sections that follow. Feel free to add other ones, but be careful when you do. Some classic interpretations of sin shouldn't be used in any adventure. Others, such as lust or gluttony, should be handled very carefully. Yes, so you have to, use your communication and work with lines and veils or whatever techniques to play safely, of course. But it says, sins to the self. Anger. The sin of anger fuels wrath, vengeance, and inner turmoil. It takes root in avarice, the domain of the archdevil Zariel. See, I love this. There's a whole setting here because you've got people ruling over certain layers. Each layer is associated with something. I mean, you just can't go wrong. This is going to be so fun. Sins to the other. Betrayal. Betraying a loved one, a god, or a sovereign can damn one's soul to Stygia, the domain of the archdevil Levistus. And I mean, we're just scratching the surface. We just talked about 2 of the layers. So imagine going through each of these and trying to figure out which sins connect to your characters. Maybe they start on that layer, that level of hell, because they, maybe the bulk of them, maybe most of them did a certain type of sin or something. And it even says here, if you and your players previously played Baldur's Gate, Descent into Avernus, your players may choose to continue with their characters from that adventure. See? Great minds think alike. And it even talks about previous adventures here in Avernus as well. Says, this adventure has been designed so that each time it is played, it can have entirely different objectives and outcomes. It does this mainly through the following ways. Souls. Each player must choose a soul to save. It might be the soul of a loved one or their own soul. The soul and the sins associated with it determine where Asmodeus has hidden it away to be tormented. Perfect. So we can go to different parts of the nine hells based on what we choose. And that's cool. That gives a lot of player agency. I love that. Group patron, the players must decide upon a group patron, so you might pick a different one to mix it up. This is so cool. I just can't recall seeing such flexibility in replayability of a game book like this. I love it. Wow. I have had very little time to look at this one, and even though I'm gonna definitely grab it because I want to support these kids, and it's got so much cool stuff in it, and it's already a best platinum seller. That means it's sold over 1,000 copies since it's been out. So you gotta add to that number and help it reach Mithril and Adamantine and help these kids and get to know all these characters. I mean, look at all these different archdevils that your characters can come into contact with. You get this high level adventure, high challenge monsters. Those are so hard to find, and it's by these super talented creators. And the best part is it helps kids. So, I mean, I could talk about this the whole episode because I just think it's awesome. I was so excited to see this was released so we could talk about it this week. So, make your way to the video description links and be sure to click Chains of Asmodeus right away. All right, next we have Encyclopaedia Formulae Arcana Volume L. So they've made it halfway through the alphabet in this series. From R.P. Davis and Brian Holmes. It's $4.95 for 32 pages. And it says, did you ever wonder what happened to that spell I used to use all the time in our 3rd edition game? And you go and you try to find a conversion and it's just not there. And they've been doing this series, they're all the way up to the letter L now. That means all the spells from basic, 1st edition, 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition have been brought forth into these volumes. Now, there's some that duplicate a subclass ability or that deal with mechanics that just don't exist in 5th edition. So some have been left behind, but the majority have been brought forward. So you're going to want this because it's got so many spells. This is the 12th volume and there's more than 150 spells in it. So you're going to be able to find stuff you can use. It's really awesome. They've done a great job. I bought most of them. I've left them a few questions that I hope they get around to answering on a couple of the titles. But they're really good. I mean, where else are you going to find all these things converted for you? And it's just massive. And an Artificer, right? The Artificer wasn't even around in these older editions, so they are getting spells added to their list. You get Bard spells, Cleric spells. Every class is getting spells. You get a spell. You get a spell. Everybody, right? And then here you see right into those spells. They don't mess around. They're giving you everything. You even get a little bit of a lore on Laeral Silverhand here. But let's look at a few of the spells. So Lamentation of the Wicked. It's second level enchantment, instantaneous, range of self, one action. You speak ancient curses, distracting your foes and causing them to gnash their teeth. Enemies within 10 feet of you who can see and hear you must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failure, they take 2d6 psychic damage and can't use the disengage or dash actions until the start of your next turn. Creatures who can't see or hear automatically save and succeed against this spell. And then the damage increases as you go up. But let's look at Land of Stability. 6th level Abjuration, range of 300 feet, one action, duration 14 days. Choose a 100-foot radius sphere within range. Land of Stability protects that area and all creatures and objects within it from natural disasters, including but not limited to the following: earthquakes, floods, windstorms, volcanoes, and avalanches. That's interesting. So for 14 days, you can prevent snow even from falling on the area. And it's only 300 feet, but still, that's cool. You could get several people casting and maybe get like 600 feet or 900 feet covered. Maybe you get a little village covered. That would be kind of a fun adventure, I think. You go to that corner, I go to this corner, and we'll cast this spell and we'll get it covered and protected from this impending disaster. You can come up with so many adventures just playing around with spells like this. And there's nothing saying that players have to use all these spells, right? You can just make them NPC only or make them a quest to find. So with this many spells, over 150, you get all kinds of things you can do. Like here's Leomund's Hidden Lodge. It's 5th level conjuration, casting time 1 minute, range 30 feet, 24-hour duration. You picture in your mind the desired appearance of a camouflaged lodge. And then you open your eyes and there it is. Choose an open space at least 20 feet on a side that you can see within range. A 10-foot radius dwelling appears centered on that spot. It's perfectly camouflaged to blend in with whatever terrain or surroundings in which you conjure it. It might appear as a house-sized boulder in a rocky mountainous area or as a sand dune in the desert. So that's cool. It's kind of like a shelter, but it's got a special ability in the sense that it can't be detected easily, right? You can presumably count on it to be there undisturbed when you get back. If you can find it, hopefully you can find it. But I mean, we're just scratching the surface. There's 150 spells in here. This whole series is awesome. I really hope you check it out. I mean, think about how much work these folks are going through to get these spells to you. This is so many spells, and they're taking, quite a long time to get this to you. So instead of doing other fun things, they are chipping away at all these spells. Even just finding all these spells is hard because you got to have access to all this old material, right? So let's support it with a $4.95 purchase here, or maybe buy others in the series by looking for it in the video description. Links is under Encyclopaedia Formulae Arcana L, and give it a click. Next, we have Manual of the Planes from QL Games, Matt Daly, Paolo Devolio, Ken Maribel, Lord Zoff, Afro Akuma Sordelin, George Loki Williams, and Landon Z. It's $29.99, already a best silver seller in its first week of release, and it's 336 pages. And you can just imagine what this is about, right? Planescape has come out, so we need a manual of all the planes that we might go to through Sigil and other places to explore those planes, because Planescape, one of the things about Planescape is that it's about exploring other planes and having planar adventures, because Sigil is like a sort of a hub of this kind of stuff, right? So it says a vital source book for players and DMs of all levels of experience. This details the manifold worlds of the Great Wheel, the most popular cosmological model of the multiverse. This book describes the layers, locations, and denizens of these worlds, as well as ideas for character creation and building planar adventures in these alien surroundings. A different style of D&D adventure awaits. So this works great with the Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse box set. If you got the Planescape Archive that we talked about last week, it goes great with that. It goes great with old, Planescape material, because this kind of updates it all. So there's a lot of uses for this book, and I love that it has sort of this this cool design of torn stuff, like this shredded stuff here. It's a really fun design. You don't often see that style, and it reminds me of the previous releases of Planescape back in the day, and this would be a modern take on it, which I love. But here's their contents. So you've got backgrounds like the Elemental Navigator and the Wild Thing, and then you got feats, including some epic boons. You've got spells. You've got species. One of the spells is called Modron March. That sounds really cool. But you got species like Exani, Barrier, Eventide, Shift, all that stuff. You got items like the Doubt Bomb, the Gorgon Blood Mortar, etc. You got some planar adventures, creature themes, and then the Great Wheel, which is where you're starting to get into all those things. Everything from, the Material Plane, the Feywild, the Shadowfell, Astral Plane, Ethereal Plane, Outlands, Negative Plane, Positive Plane, Elemental Air. I mean, it goes on, all of them. Everything on the wheel. That's what this cover is. It's showing you this wheel. It's right here. All the different layers. So all of it's going to be discussed. Then you get creatures that you find on the plane, like the Atcherai, the Archfey, Archons, Gardenals, Zagya, Zagi. I mean, it's here. But of course, when you start talking about hell and these different things, again, we're going to remind you got to be careful. Make sure your players are up for that and that they're cool with it. Really, anything, you should check that. And there's a lot of websites that will help you, lines and veils, various things, right? So make sure if you're a DM that you're considering that, because, you're supposed to have fun with these games, right? We don't want to be unhappy or triggered or upset or anything by playing these games. So, quick conversation with people, make sure everybody's comfortable, and you can have a lot of fun. But let's look inside this manual of planes here. Character creation, planar principia. I mean, it's here. I mean, this is 336 pages. Even planewalker slang. Like, peak means noon. A scrag means it's a verb means to harass, to frisk, to arrest. So you can start speaking some of these words as you go through. And then there's some terms that you need to know, like an exemplar or, a planar breach and what those are. And then it talks about what makes a planar adventure, like planar travel, planar breaches, philosophies, all that stuff. And then you get into that character creation. Here's your Elemental Navigator. We're going to read about that in just a minute. But, I mean, lots to see here. And there's also an alternate preview, which we haven't looked at. But, there's a lot. There's a lot that you can look at and enjoy. So let's look first at the Elemental Navigator. So as a sailor, pilot, caravan guide, or trail ranger in the elemental chaos or another elemental plane, you're accustomed to traversing hazardous, exotic, intensely magical horizons. When confronted by an unexpected iceberg or solar flare, you know what to do to overcome the challenge. Earthquakes, avalanches, maelstroms, and tidal waves are daily fare for you. So yeah, if you've been traveling extraplanarly for a while, then you're going to be more suited than the next person who maybe hasn't done that. And so that would be a really good background for a Planescape campaign, because you want somebody who knows which ways up and down in all these places, right? So you get survival and your choice of Arcana or Nature for your skills. You get Primordial as your language, or another one, Navigator's Tools, a set of Traveler's Clothes, and all that good stuff. But your feature, it says, ferrying the elemental chaos or another elemental plane has steeped you in elemental energy. you gain your choice of one of the following feats. So Elemental Adapt, Elemental Discipline, which is here in this book, Resilience of the Elemental Chaos, also in this book. In addition, you know how to find discounted, sometimes even free passage on any vehicle you and your allies assist in operating, such as a ship. So as long as you're helping out around the ship, you can get free passage. That's cool. That'll come in handy, especially traveling. And again, it could spill into Spelljammer, right? You could go from Spelljammer to Planescape or vice versa. Building an elemental navigator character, so you have personality traits like I have no fear of natural phenomena, I have an irrational fear of a certain element, or my heart is ice cold, or a lump of coal, literally. So really cool. And then you get into the Far Realm Survivor. So this is interesting, right? Someone who's maybe been to the Far Realm and returned, and they're not the same. So thousands of eyes, impossible geometry, and eldritch horrors from beyond comprehension. These are the scenes you remember from your time in the Far Realm. Perhaps you glimpsed it only briefly, or maybe you were banished there for an untold number of unchanging years. Regardless, you've been tainted by the strange and the terrifying. You'll never be the same again. Well, that's that's very in your face, and I love it. It's appropriate because you've been there. You've been to the Far Realm, and now you've come back, and it is not like it was before for you. And your equipment is a severed body part of an aberration. That's cool. You also know deep speech, insight, and definitely survival because you've been through it, right? No intelligent creature can return unscathed from the corrupting alterations of the Far Realm. You gain the personal symbiont or scion of the Far Realm feat. In addition, you know where to find free, modest lodging and food in the community you grew up in. And then the personality traits include existence futile. I am a narrative attached to a simple arithmetic and a random number generation. Another one is I see neon fractals float through the air, but I've never met someone else who can. So fun stuff. I mean, it's getting you in the mood, right? Like you could be somebody who's adept at traveling all the planes, and so you're on the go, and you know maybe you don't have as much experience with every plane, but you know how to get around and what to watch out for and all that stuff. Whereas the next character could be a Far Realm survivor that's just like, look, I've been through it, I don't have time for your nonsense. I'm gonna take this severed body part and hit you over the head with it. Let's go. Right? So you can have a lot of fun with these characters and really, you know, flesh them out. And we just read a couple. You got Wild Thing, you've got Transitive Anchor. I mean, all kinds of stuff in here. And then when you get to the feats, they've got Amphibious, Elemental Disciple, Fight or Flight, Personal Symbiont. That sounds fun. So it says, due to your connection to aberrations, strange experiments, or a remote plane, you have cultivated a symbiotic entity that resides in or on your body. These symbionts are self-aware and can communicate telepathically. And drawing on their powers comes at a concession. A symbiont has intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores of 10 and is immune to any effect that would sense its emotion or read its thoughts, as well as any divination spell that it refuses. So then you have to choose one of the symbionts. We're just going to read one. I want you to come here and read the rest. I mean, this is fun, right? Crawling Gauntlet. Your hand is replaced with an alien creature which feeds off your body and which you can use to make unarmed strikes. When you hit with it, the strike deals 1d6 plus your strength mod slashing damage instead of bludgeoning damage normal for an unarmed strike. When you make this attack, you can choose to deal necrotic damage. Instead, if you do, you have advantage on constitution checks and saving throws for 1 hour. So that's fun. Yeah, you could have a whole story around your Crawling Gauntlet and like, oh my gosh, you know, I went to the Far Realm and all I came back with was this lousy gauntlet that crawls, you know. So you could just have so many little tales and stories and directions and history that you can weave into your vast Planescape narrative with this. So I hope you are interested in exploring the planes and that you look in the video description links for Manual of the Planes and give it a click. Next, we have Otto's Irresponsible, Upcasting, learn from the wizard who never played by the rules and cast every spell at higher levels. It's from Anthony Anderson, Danny Kodacek, and it's $4.99 for 23 pages. And it says, dive into a world where spells evolve and become more formidable as you cast them at higher levels. Rediscover the thrill of spell casting with this groundbreaking supplement. Transform your spellcasters into true masters of magic, expanding your upcasting options to include every spell in the player's handbook. So there's 210 spells and 15 cantrips that are now getting the at higher levels. It's a little different for cantrips, but you get the idea. Similar ability in the sense that you're upcasting. And it's cool. I mean, you don't have to use every single one of these. You could pick and choose as a DM to allow a few of these to give you some more upcasting capabilities. You could have quests to unlock some of these. You could have to spend downtime to be able to achieve the higher levels on some of your spells, right? There's so many ways you could work these in. You could have just NPCs doing it. You could even use this book to help you get a feel for all the different flavors and ways of doing at higher levels for your own spells, or maybe some third-party spells that you would like to add at higher levels too. You could even come up with conditions when you can use at higher levels versus not. So lots of things you can do with this massive tome of at higher levels upcasting for whether it's cantrips or spells here. 210 plus 15, so that's 225 options here. There's even an optional rule here for cloud spells, which is fun, and I love the look of it. These sort of floating letters with images behind them. I think that looks really cool as you scroll your way through. And get some sidebar information in there too. So let's find one to read here on this page. So we've got Sanctuary. It says at higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 3rd level or higher, the number of creatures you can affect increases by 1 for each 2 slot levels above 1st. If one of the warded creatures makes an attack, casts a spell that affects an enemy, or deals damage to another creature, the effect ends for that creature. So expanding the targets is one thing that upcasting can do. Obviously, upcasting can increase damage. Sometimes it increases range. I mean, so many things. Let's look at some simulacrum here. When you cast a spell using an 8th level spell slot, the duplicate has 3/4 of the original's hit point maximum. At 9th level, it has the same maximum. So upping the ability of this duplicate, it's basically its stats with that one. Let's see, let's pick another one. Ray of Enfeeblement. When you cast a spell using a spell slot of 3rd level or higher, you can cast 1 additional ray for each slot above 2nd. The rays can be against the same creature or different ones, but you must decide on all targets before you make any attack rolls. So yeah, expanding your number of targets there. Here's one with it looks like range increase. So plant growth, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, if you cast it using an action, the area of effect increases by 50 feet for each slot level above 3rd. If you cast it using the longer effect, the casting time is reduced by 1 hour for each slot level above 3rd. Love this. I think this is super helpful, useful, could really tweak some long-term spells. Maybe you think a spell is weak and nobody picks it, so maybe adding at higher levels is going to unlock that spell and make people use it. I really like this, and for future, these authors should consider maybe either adding to this book or doing another book some directions for people on how they would develop their own at higher levels for their own custom spells, because that's always good to figure out how to do it. They obviously had to figure it out to be able to do it for every single one of these spells. So giving people that advice would be another cool thing. But I love this. I mean, every spell is in here, and we're just getting to see H through S, I think. Yeah, H through S. But yeah, I mean, everything: slow, sleet storm, scrying, sending, rope trick. Even rope trick has at higher levels. What is rope tricks? It says when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 3rd level or higher, you can move the entrance to the extra dimensional space as an action. You can do this as many times as you like for a duration, but you can't move it more than 15 feet in any direction from its original location. So you can kind of bounce it around where the location of it is. So that's cool. That's interesting. You don't often see some of these mechanics at higher levels, which I think also makes this fun. So I think you should upcast your spells by grabbing a hold of Otto's Irresponsible Upcasting. Look for it in the video description links and give it a click. Next, we have Planar Compass Issue 3. This is for basic, BECME, OSR, that kind of stuff, but I love the Planar Compass series. I think it's so inspiring, and with Planescape and Spelljammer out there, all the issues in this series, I think, resonate well with what's happening in 5th edition. So you can use them for old school essentials, or you can use them for basic or 5th edition if you're crafty and want to adapt. And some of the stuff doesn't even need adaptation because it's more just lore or location or things like that, right? And another fun cover. They always have fun little covers. $6 for this one. And it's 72 pages. Authors D.M. Wilson, Sarah Brunt, and Aaron D. Small, or Smale, not sure how you say that. But it says, discover the tome of the mysterious 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙤𝙪𝙧𝙫 and find out what is at the heart of their theocratic empire. And it says it works with swords and wizardry, labyrinth lore, old school essentials, etc. And it's got 2 new classes to choose from, the Time Priest and 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙤𝙀, and then you've got Divine Law and Time Spells. Those sound fun. And then Monsters, Dungeons, Clockwork Beetle, Jousting, and more. And then you can get a bundle with all 3 past issues. The price is showing lower for me, I think, because I bought some of the past issues. So it may not be the $5 I'm seeing for you, maybe. But really cool. I would definitely consider the bundle, because I think if you click these links and look at the other titles, you'll enjoy those as well. So scrolling through here, there's this place called the Clockwork Port, and it's got a distance from Dreamhaven, which is another location. It says, in the Astral Sea lies a gear-shaped island. Long have the golden steamships set forth from that strange port. Long have their automation, or automaton, man, I cannot say that word today, automaton missionaries traverse the plains of the multiverse. All must pay tax to the Church of 𝙤𝙤, such is the law in 𝙤𝙤. The Clockwork Port plays host to the most revered stable portal to the plane of 𝙤𝙤. The faithful believe that this gateway is where the will of 𝙤𝙤 first penetrated into the multiverse, setting time in motion for all planes of existence. And then you've got some figures of note here. Secrets, like the Redeemers, a faction of heretical time priests cast out from the plane of 𝙤𝙤. This faction hides out on the island looking for an opportunity to sneak home. And then here you go. Here's the plane. And look, it looks like a giant cog with all sorts of interesting stuff. It looks like a main building here, which is number 2. And then you've got a port over here, which is number 1. And then there's some really cool circular features in the center. Maybe a government building is number 3 on the left there. And then, of course, where people live and shop and do all that stuff is 4, where all the buildings are. But let's see what it says. Number 2 is the cathedral. So this big building is a cathedral. Number 3 is a machine shop. Okay. And 4 is the commons. Yeah, where everybody's at. And then, of course, there's a divine gate. So it says the cogs of the island serve as the docks for astral ships coming to and from the Clockwork Port. So if you think about the Astral Sea and ships coming along on there, this would be right there for you to visit. Good place, good landing spot. You need places. I mean, the Astral Sea can be vast, right? So there's a notable figure named Cepheus, is a middle-aged Onak dock worker, known for his sharp humor and biting tongue. He has no shortage of friends and enemies. He hates the 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙤𝙀 lords of the island, but can't afford passage off of it. And then here's some more stuff, and you got some cool clockwork stuff going on. The commons, it says, a sprawl of buildings and houses accommodating outside species and some unfortunate 𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙤𝙀. Its existence is tolerated by the Church of 𝙤𝙤 as long as the majority of people stay faithful and continue their offerings. And then, of course, you've got secrets in here, and the Divine Gate, or the Divine Gale, it looks like. In the very center of the island lies a golden radiant pool, an anointed oasis in the desert. 2 bronze staircases on opposite ends of the pool descend down into the radiance. The gate opens only on the sect of Deluge. Passing through the portal brings travelers to the Great Wheel. So that's cool. I like the look of this. And you can see the staircases in the center here. Yeah, that's fun. I mean, this all ties in. Planescape just came out. You've got Spelljammer. So, you know, this, if you want to bring the astral plane to life, the astral sea, you want to traverse, look at different places, and maybe you're going to go the other way and adapt some of the new Planescape stuff to, you know, old school. Whatever you're up to, I think, you know, these are reasonably priced. I mean, this issue is only $6. You can get a bundle of the first 3 issues for a reasonable price. So I think you should look for it in the video description links. It's under Planar Compass, and give it a click. Next, we have more Astral Plane goodness from Tales from the Astral Plane. And this is a big, big book. It's 180 pages all about the Astral Plane. And it was a Kickstarter, so a lot of people, I think, got it through that. And it's by Team Bonsai, and it's $25. And author John Harmston. It says, few places in the multiverse are more mysterious and unexplored than the Astral Plane. We are pleased to introduce an action-packed astral adventure, new rules for exploration and combat on the plane, and comprehensive resources for creating your own adventures on the Astral Plane. Love that. So you're going to get all this stuff to use, like adventures and information, and then it's going to help you create your own. And that's the best kind of book for DMs, I think, because a book that teaches you how to do something, it just keeps on giving. You're never going to run out of uses for it. It's not going to collect dust like some other books that maybe just present things to you. So it says, our trademark is unique and memorable encounters. Every encounter has a new monster, unexpected tactics, an unusual environment, battle map, or some surprise element. The adventure can easily be inserted into an existing campaign. Even if you decide not to run the adventure as is, all 15 plus major encounters are designed to easily be extracted. So that's nice. Normally you have an adventure and it's so woven together you can't extract it and use the different parts. So that's nice that you can take the 15 plus encounters and use them separately. There's an asteroid called Elysia. It has locations and NPCs, so you can use that with or without the adventure. The adventure runs from 3rd to 5th level. And it's setting agnostic, but it really should be, the Astral Plane, but outside of that, it could be anywhere, right? The Astral Plane connects to every world in the material plane. It connects to other planes, right? So you could really start there and move your way out, or start somewhere else and move your way in with no trouble at all. So it also goes into what are the rules for actually living and adventuring and just being in the Astral Plane. So it talks about spellcasting, which spells work the same, which are different. How does the lack of gravity affect aspects of combat? How does stealth work? How do liquids behave? Do some magic items have different characteristics? How do creatures travel? All of this is addressed in this book, which I think is good because, the DM is going to get hit with those questions. And having a book like this, it just gives you at least an option of how to answer it. You can tweak it, of course. That's the beauty of D&D, is that it's your world and you can change it to your liking, but having an option is awesome. 6 different methods for tracking movement in 3D combat, running a spectrum of complexity from theater of the mind to detailed approaches. I love that because a lot of books just say, here's the 3D combat system, take it or leave it. And it doesn't resonate with everyone, but giving you 6 options, this is really great. These creators have really thought about usability, reader experience. That's what you want from a book, and if you're going to pay $25, you want people that are thinking about what is the reader's experience going to be with this after they pay their hard-earned money. So I love everything I'm seeing here in terms of encouraging players and DMs to do their thing and not be so bound in. Being able to extract pieces of the adventure, setting you up for success with all these different questions you're going to get asked, and then 6 different methods for tracking movement. And we're not even done. We're not even done looking at all this stuff. So there's random encounters. They have something called a dream quest. It says, on the astral plane, the latent magic and psychic energy in the environment can latch onto the anxieties and half-remembered dreams of the PCs and manifest into encounters called dream quests. These dreams might replay past experiences, reflect the subconscious fears of the PCs, be guided by unseen forces, or even communicate messages from the gods. So it even gives you guidelines on how to build your own dream quest. Like I said, best books give you the tools to do it yourself. Love it. And it's got new races, monsters, magic items, backgrounds, factions, spells, feats, classes, locations, tons of adventure hooks, and 100 unique random items that you can find on the astral plane. This is a 180-page tome, right? It's going to really give you, I think, anything and everything you can want for astral plane. And this whole episode, we've been talking about Planescape. We talked about it last week, too. Planescape has come out. Spelljammer's still out. Astral Plane is tied to all of that. and anywhere. Like I said, there are spells that reference the astral plane. You got spiders, like phase spiders, I think they're called, that bounce between the astral plane and or maybe it's the ethereal. I don't remember. Don't quote me on it. But there are monsters that connect with the astral plane. There are spells that connect with the astral plane. So it's all around, right? And so having a volume that at a moment's notice you can grab and start pulling stuff out, because maybe your players do something wild and go in a totally different direction you didn't even know. Now they're stuck in the astral plane. What are you going to do? You have this 3 to 5 adventure, you've got encounters, you've got all these things if you grab this book. So looking inside, you can see all these areas. You've got combat, tracking combat in 3 dimensions, conveyances, so astral ships, sky ships, void racers, all that stuff, dream quests, which I think sounds like one of the most fun parts of this, mounts, magic items, navigation, origins of the astral plane, random encounters, regions, spellcasting on the astral plane, time and aging, all this stuff. I mean, and that's just part 1. The rules of the astral plane is part 1. Part 2 is Strangers to the Void, which is the adventure. And then part 3 is the resources, where you get those races like the Gloom Elf and the Clock Folk. And then you get subclasses like the Astral Terrain, Astromancer, Master of Dreams, and Void Dancer. And then you got feats, backgrounds, spells, magic items, like Astral Anchor, that sounds cool, Rift Grenades, Symbol of Communion, and the monsters like Andonis Vezran, Ando the Sojourner, Pegatar, Troublekin, Lionfolk Paladin, Clockfolk Cultist, and then those random items. So really, I mean, it just runs the gamut on the things that you can do. And you can see really cool artwork here. Here's an astraloid. It says, sizable land masses that find their way to the astral plane are known to scholars as astral bodies or astraloids. They can be any size from a large boulder to a planetoid, but most often are the size of a small terrestrial island or smaller. Most have been on the plane for longer than recorded history, their inhabitants oblivious as to their origin. Some astraloids are barren, some contain ancient ruins, and still others contain sprawling cities. Most are fixed in place, and none of them have gravity. So, I'm a creative. I create a lot of stuff, and I read these things and ideas just flood into my mind, and that's a sign of a really good book, right? Because DMs are creatives, right? They have to develop stories. And so reading this, the first thing that jumped out to me was, if there are people living there that do not know how they got there, how this astrolabe was even formed, what it even is, that there is anything else, right? If this is the only thing they've ever known, they may not know what a mountain is, or a stream, or some of these things that you would experience on the material plane. So if your characters are traveling to this astrolabe from somewhere else, that's going to be an interesting, almost like a first contact experience from Star Trek. Like, what are the things that they might reveal or not reveal about what else is out there in the world? And maybe they find a sidekick or a retainer that tags along with them off the astrolabe, and then you can portray as the DM this character as a fish out of water that's really like, oh, whoa, what is that? I've never seen this giant rock. And they're like, that's a mountain. And so you can have a lot of fun dealing with what's known and unknown to characters, right? And so just this little, and that was just one idea. I had other ideas. I'm not going to spend all video, talking through all of my ideas, but that's the sign of a good book, is it's going to trigger ideas in you, right? So it looks like there's astral storms that happen, and then there's results of the storm. So it says the PC has traveled 1d4 minutes away from the other PCs. Even in their confused and disoriented state, the PC can sense they are tumbling uncontrollably across a vast distance of the plane, a condition not caused by a physical external force, but instead as a result of their wild and turbulent thoughts. Interesting. Luckily, the lost PC knows the general direction traveled, but can only hope their companions stay in the area and don't leave while they backtrack. Any PCs who succeed their intelligence save will observe the direction that lost PCs traveled because of the storm. So, it says scholars have long recognized a psychic connection between astral plane and the creatures living on the material plane. It is believed that the connection occasionally gives rise to powerful bursts of psychic energy. So something happens and it causes you to just become adrift in the astral plane, and you got to hope you can make your way back. I mean, that's a fun experience to work through, and that's just one. This is a whole D6 table. There's a bunch of other things that could happen, and we're just getting through this skimming the surface, really, of the astral plane rules, things that you're going to find, like astraloids and astral storms. And then you've got bodies versus souls. An original physical body, the creature was transported physically to the astral plane. And then there's the astral bodies, right? Like astral travel spell creates those astral bodies. And then there's a soul. When a creature dies on the material plane, its soul leaves its body and enters the astral plane to travel to its place of judgment. So then a soul could be passing through. So I love that they're even thinking about that and saying, hey, these are the possibilities of what could be happening for you, what you could be encountering, what you could be experiencing if you're one of these things. Physical creature transported here, your soul is here because you're on your way somewhere else. So that might even be a way to have an adventure after death. And then you've got, of course, your astral form if you do the astral travel. That astral travel spell could get a lot of use out of this book. Really, really could. I'm loving everything I'm seeing. I already grabbed it because I when I was prepping the video, I saw so many things that I wanted to look at more. So I was like, I'm going to get it. So join me in adding this to your collection. It's called Tales from the Astral Plane, and it's linked in our video description links, so give it a click. Next, we've got Wandering Fates, Tome of Encounters from Burning Light Press, $19 for the PDF, or you can get a softcover for $24.99. Or hardcover for $29.99, or combos for those same prices, which I love. Love seeing when the PDF is bundled with the print on demand for the same price. Keep it up. It's 113 pages. Author Daniel James on this. This is Welcome to the Wandering Fates, Tome of Encounters. Within, you'll find 50 encounters ready to be used in your next adventuring session. And it says 5e here on the picture. It doesn't have it checkboxed over here, so if you're watching Daniel, you'll want to go into your settings for this title and check the box for 5th edition, because it really helps people search and find the book, especially since some people literally filter everything out that's not 5e, so I don't want your book to get lost here. It says, within you'll find 50 encounters ready to be used, be it a deadly dungeon filled with monsters and treasure, a curious merchant with dazzling wares, a troubled NPC with a dubious past and questionable motives, or a powerful creature happy to take your life and your soul. So there's 3 sections: dungeons, events, and creatures. So that's nice. They've broken out the different encounters so that if you want something, if you definitely want a dungeon, you would go to that section. If you want to be more event focused, you'd go there. If you really want to build around a creature, you go to creatures. So a very nice way of organizing it. The dungeons range from outright hostile caves to magical teleporting wizard tower. And the events are additional activities that can occur while interacting with NPCs or creatures. They are not required, however, they can turn a common fight into an interesting encounter. Creatures consist of both friendly, if desired, humanoid NPCs, as well as devious and dangerous wild creatures. You can roll a D100, and because they have 50 options to figure out which encounter if you want, or you can scroll through and pick. So here you go. You can see inside they've got some really nice artwork and layout going on. I like the fun little icons, and so it shows you how it's organized here, and how they're using different colors and fonts and things to help you understand. Connections and difficulty. So little symbols for the difficulty. And here's an example with a dungeon map already. It says Holmes's. The Forgotten is an ancient being that was once but a simple halfling, its body now twisted from centuries of residing within a dark cave of stone and moss. The Forgotten lives through the powerful amulet that sits around its neck, offering eternal life at the cost of never being able to leave the location where the amulet was first worn. Rarely seeing intelligent beings, the Forgotten is shy and reclusive, though will defend his small island like a cornered rat. The creature, more than anything, loves a good riddle. And here's the stats for the Forgotten, and it gives you little details about the cave. It says the cave entrance, the ground slick with mildew and moss, the body of a young halfling who tripped and hit his head on the rock while running from the Forgotten. a deep pool of water that drops down hundreds of feet, a small island that the Forgotten calls home. So that would be this little number 4 here. And then there's some riddles. I'm not going to read those because I don't want to give away, but you see kind of the structure, right? You get the dungeon, the map, the stats, the details, and then some bonus material like the riddles in this case. So this one's for the spitting spider, and you get the image of the spider, which is cool. I mean, just playful artwork, fun little layout, easy to read. I mean, you could print this, or you could display it for yourself on a tablet or a laptop and just have it ready to go. And I mean, look at this really cool campsite map. Yeah, I mean, these are going to be so easy to plug in. You can flesh them out with whatever campaign details or connections you want. And it's just a wealth of options. I mean, 50, and you can, for just a little bit more than the PDF, you can get that soft cover and have both. But even the hardcover isn't that much more. So I would consider a bundle if you're going to get this one. So look for it. It's under Wandering Fates, Tome of Encounters, and the links below. Give it a click. Now we have Witchgrave and Haunt from Pacesetter Games, 3 haunting Halloween adventures. So Pacesetter Games and Simulations is the publisher, and they've been around a long time, beginning of 5th edition for sure. We were seeing stuff from them, so it's nice to see them still going. You got Bill Barsh, the author here, $5 for 64 pages. That's a really good price for 64 pages. It says, welcome to Halloween, a game adventure style. Included in this special module book are 3 Halloween-inspired adventures. Each is unique in regard to environment and subject matter. They are all designed for low-level play and generally shorter in length. The Witch of Monte Rosa and 6 Feet Under can both be played in 1 or 2 game sessions. The Haunted House of Clydesdale is larger but has 2 distinct adventure locations that can be split into 1 or 2 game sessions each. So just to give you an idea, it says, The Witch of Monte Rose, a lonely hill, a lost girl, and a green moon. Farmers cower in fear, and the entire whispers, or the entire village whispers that is the coming of the witch. An adventure for first level characters. Then the next one, the Haunted House, is for 2 to 4, levels 2 to 4, and 6 Feet Under is for 3 to 5. So you could roll these right into each other. You could start with the first one, second one, third one, and of course it's for 5th edition. So looking inside, you can see like summaries of each of these. But here's some like random events that can happen as well. So the following charts are designed to include some added fright, mystery, and suspense to any of the 3 following adventures. Wandering monsters only potentially appear in the Haunted House of Clydesdale, but that doesn't mean you can't stalk the PCs with some added fun. There are 2 charts below, one for outdoor adventuring and one for dungeon delving. So it says night, roll 1d6. So the first one is the moon suddenly changes color to a phosphorescent green. If it is as if wisp of green smoke drift around the moon's shape, which could be full. And then the 6th option is a pair of glowing green eyes are spotted. They seem to stare directly at the PCs. Nothing is found on investigation. And then the day table also has 6 options. The sun suddenly changes color to a phosphorescent green. And then number 6 is one random PC suddenly hears whispers suggesting that the mission will end in the death of the party. That could be really fun to play out. But these are just some. We're just giving, there's 12 options here. Then there's also encounters. The first one is a blast of cold wind hits the PCs from the front. All flaming light sources are extinguished. The last one is the last creature the PC slew appears as a ghostly visage and swears revenge upon the party. So you could have a lot of fun with that. It could be just a red herring, or you could actually plan to do something about it later. So yeah, these are fun, and this is nice to have. These aren't required for the adventure. They're just giving you some stuff to keep that fun Halloween flavor going. I know we're past Halloween, but this book came out before, but we're covering 2 weeks with our videos now. So, but it could always be Halloween in game, and no time like the present to get ready for next Halloween too. So I hope you seriously consider this book. And let's read a little bit about this Witch of Monte Rosa. So it's primarily an outdoor dungeon adventure for a party of 6 to 8 first level characters. You can use higher level, but in case The total level should not exceed 12. A well-balanced party is optimal, but no particular character class is required. It's a sandbox adventure and can be dropped into virtually any campaign world. It says Monte Rosa is a steep-sided hill located on the periphery of a fertile and venerable valley that is famous for its numerous and varied vineyards. The vast farmland has been used to grow grapes for centuries, and many of the farming families have tended the land equally as long. The valley is quite large, and several villages and 2 towns, one at each end, support a populace of several thousand. The entire population of the valley. The valley is located near a mountain range, and 2 rivers snake into the valley from the mountains, both of which pass within a quarter mile of Monte Rosa. While the valley is dominated by seemingly unending fields of grapevines, there is scant other foliage. Monte Rosa is the exception, as it is surrounded at its base by a thick and tangled wood. Its slopes are also tree-covered, and albeit mostly low, scrubby trees. The hilltop is dominated by red maples, pines, and the occasional oak tree. A single trail leads up to the west face of the hill, and the ascent is arduous. It is possible to scale the hill from the other faces, but that going is slow and it's noisy. So yeah, I mean, lots of beautiful detail here, rich descriptions that you can read to your party. And, it says recently things within the valley have become dark. Vines have produced grapes for centuries or are suddenly bare. Worship people are disappearing or being brutally murdered. So definitely Halloween flavored, fun, but this could be Ravenloft. It could be, kind of darkness in your storytelling that you see with things like Ravenloft as well. So again, works at any time. Love it. Hope you look for it. It's in the video description. Links is under Witchgrave and Haunt. Give it a click. Now we come to that part of our episode where we talk about other releases that we don't have time to take a deep dive into, but we want you to know that they've been released so you can check them out on their own, and they do look interesting. And this week, they all happen to be for 5th edition. First up, we have Attack the Shop, which is an adventure for level 4, including tokens and monsters. It's $4.95 for 28 pages. Then we've got Bloodpunk, Blood Creama's Ascent, the first official adventure from Dreamrealm Storytellers for the Bloodpunk setting. It's $10 for 42 pages. And then we've got Cavern Crawls number 24, $2.99 for 6 pages. And it is called Trickster's Touch. It's an adventure for level 5. Then we've got Classing It Up, the Boundless Bards Edition. This is all about subclasses for bards. It's $2.95 for 20 pages. Then we've got Crimson Arcana, the Tomes of Melchior 6, Blood Magic, which contains a bunch of spells for you, all themed around blood magic. It's $3.95 for 19 pages. Then we've got Holier Than Thou Prestige Feats, so feats that function kind of like those old prestige classes. It's only $2.90 for 11 pages. Then we've got The Last Frontier. It's a location with encounters and VTT maps. It's $9.99 for 19 pages. Then we've got PhD&D's Ravenloft Adventures Volume 1, $16 for 71 pages, and of course it contains a bunch of adventures related to the Shadowfell. Then we've got Simple 5th Edition Horror on sale for 99 cents, normally $1.99, and it is 22 pages with a bunch of optional rules to bring horror to your 5th edition table. Then we've got Strange Life Forms of the Outer Planes Multiversal Menagerie, $1.99 for 11 pages, and this is a bunch of monsters from the mini planes of the Great Wheel, and they've also, Spellfleet Games that put this out, also put out another title in this Strange Life Forms of the Outer Planes series this week, so you can also check that one out while you're on the page after you click our link. Then we've got Tome Unleashed for 5th edition from Kobold Press. It's got monsters and optional rules, how to kind of tweak your monsters. It's $4.99 for 18 pages. Then we've got Twisted Fairy Tales for Iron Kingdoms from Privateer Press, $1.99 for 8 pages. And it's also got a Bard subclass in there. Then we've got Ultimate Treasury from Legendary Games. It is $29.99 for 346 pages of magic items, spells, creatures, and more. Then we've got Untold Subclasses, School of Defilement, It's $1.95 for a wizard subclass alongside spells and an NPC. And then we have Zombie 5e Undead Reimagined, $7.95 for 66 pages. And of course, it's got a lot of monsters, but it also has subclasses and spells for you. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it out there with your friends to help with the algorithm. Please leave a comment as well. We love hearing from you. Tell us what books you're going to pick up out of this week's episode or other books that you're enjoying out there, because we love hearing about that, and I'll respond to all comments personally. And if you really want to support these creators, you got to click those links in the video description so you can check out their pages, purchase the books, leave reviews, all that good stuff. And anything you purchase after you click one of those links is going to help the channel through a small affiliate fee. So we love when you bookmark one of those links to do your shopping at Drive-Thru or Dungeon Masters Guild on a regular basis. Really helps us out. Or you can purchase one of our books. We put out 7 books over the years. You can find out about them at splinterverse.com or in those links in the video description. And we've got a 2-book Kickstarter, which is going to be a campaign setting and an adventure coming out early next year. So you're going to want to follow us everywhere so that you can be the first to know what that's going to be all about. And you're definitely going to want to know what that's all about. It's never been done before, as far as I know. So I think you're going to really be interested. And keep in mind that we're not just on the typical places. We're not just on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, although we are there too. We are also on Mastodon and Blue Sky and all these new places like Threads. So if you're out there on these other socials, be sure to follow us there so we can all hang around together and have great adventures. And we really appreciate your support any which way it comes at us, even if it's just watching the video. We love that. It's great to talk with you every few weeks. So thanks so much for supporting us and for enjoying these great creators out there. Let's keep supporting them in these tough times. And until next time, happy adventuring.